I love this thing. I pretty much use it all the time. And two things my cars need, because I always forget to plug in my trickle chargers, so they need a jump start, and sometimes I have a flat tire or a low air in the tire. In this situation, it's flat because I did a burnout and then it went flat. But the cool thing is, this thing's awesome. It's definitely going on the website. Hey everybody, welcome to Dave's World. So I started Dave's World just to do YouTube, but then it evolved into me creating super Cruzes. So if you're new here, this is Cruze Missile. I make really cool stuff like titanium intercoolers and T3 turbochargers and horsepower packages. I make all sorts of cool stuff for the Cruze, the Gen 1, the Gen 2, the Malibu, the Equinox, the Sonic, you name it, the Vanderhall, which is a really cool autocycle, even the Buick Encore. So anyway, the reason for the video is I also help people diagnose cars, and I thought it was important to show people how to use a multimeter, a jump pack, and a test light. And these jump packs are pretty cool because it's going to be a new product on the website, and I wanted to show people how these work too in the video, which I thought would be awesome. And then also stay tuned because we're going to get Cruze Missile running, but I have some new turbo packages and new intercoolers coming, especially with titanium, and I absolutely love how this looks, but we're going to be changing this in color with some heat. So I left it this gold color just to show people what it could look like, and then it's going to start being this color after I start heating everything up, and I have an awesome titanium engine cover to go with it. Okay, so here is a typical multimeter that, this is a good this I know is a very good multimeter. I bought this on the internet. If you want, I'll probably add this to the website so people know exactly which one, or I could put a budget one on the website. But if you want to read voltage, any meter that has a V section, or it might say DCV, like it might say DCV, you want to make sure it's DC voltage. You want to make sure you're using usually this area of the meter where you're reading voltage. Typically on a car, you're using the one that says 20. And the one that says 20, basically it's 2 digits. So for example, if I put it down to here, and I read voltage, it would shift the numbers to past the period, and I put it here, it would shift the numbers way before the period. This is the range we're looking at. This will give us 12 volt ranges. So for example, let's say you want to read continuity. If you're reading continuity and you touch these two terminals together, you'll see zeros. Okay, that means you have a good connection, okay? If you see OL, it means open lead. So let's start with continuity. This is a piece of metal, right? We're going to put these on this piece of metal, and we're going to touch it together, and now we know that this piece of metal is not broken. Imagine this is a fuse. Let's say this is a fuse and it's broken in the middle, and we touch two ends, you would just see OL. So that's a good way to check continuity on something. Okay, so right here is a 3 amp fuse. I use these fuses on my HVAC system. 3 amp fuses are not really used in a car. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to probe here and here, and you're going to see continuity on this meter. So if you see that I probe both of these pins, it's going to show you good continuity. See? Now we have good continuity on the fuse. What I'm going to do is let's hook the battery up, or the battery pack up. We're going to feed power to the car. And then what I'm going to do is feed power to the relay, or to the fuse, with these jumper wires. That should pop the fuse. Now if I take the other half of this and send it to ground, we should see the fuse pop. Yeah, see? The fuse just popped. Now, since the fuse is popped, if I check it with my meter for continuity, then you're going to see just OL, because now there's no connection inside this fuse. That's why we see OL. This is how we know. I mean, aside from a visual inspection, you can clearly see the middle of the fuse is blown out, so this fuse is no good now. Okay, so now basically what I want to show you is how to read voltage. This is an important one, because when you're installing something on a car, you want to know what you're trying to use to power something. And when we're diagnosing, you want to be able to check things on the car when you're diagnosing. So let's now go with the voltage side of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook the battery pack up so we actually have 12 volts on this car. Okay. Now the car is being fed 12 volts. So what I should be able to do now is you want to put this on a good ground. This is the ground probe. So we should be able to stick it right into here. I usually tell people to always use the ground stud under the hood, but now wherever I put the red probe, I should be able to see voltage on things. So for example, here is, let's just pick any fuse right now. So now we have, this says 15 volts because the battery pack is charging the battery. But this, you'll probably see 12 volts if the car is on or if the key is on, the car is off. You might probably see 13.5 if the car is running while you're probing this. But this is a good way to tell if you have voltage going to a fuse. It's that simple. Now, if I were to probe one side of a fuse, let me show you real quick. So in this fuse box, if I were to probe a fuse and I touch the top of the fuse, you'll see that we have voltage there. And I'm going to touch the other side of the fuse, you'll see we have voltage on both sides. This is a good fuse. It's a quick, simple test. If this fuse was blown and I probe one side, I would see voltage on one side, and then let's say I probe the other side and I see just zeros, that means this fuse is blown and you have to swap out that fuse. Hey guys, listen, when I look at my algorithm, I see that more than 50% of you aren't even subscribed to my channel. Subscribing is free, just do it. And then you get to see really cool videos you didn't know existed, like how I built a budget ZR1 wide body replica and I'm able to paint it for under $150. Now another reason why you want to know how this multimeter works is, let's say you're trying to run an accessory like a flex fuel kit. There's many fuses in this fuse panel that have power, but the key is finding one that has no power when the key is off, because you want to be able to shut things down when you tap into something. So I started using a lot of times the ECM fuse. So if you look, I'm probing the ECM fuse and you see how there's no power. But a lot of times when you check other fuses, there is power. So this is one of the few fuses that have no power in this fuse box. And I'm able to hook an accessory up and I can tap into this. And what'll happen is anything that's hooked up will have no power with the key off, which is what you want. Because if you hooked up something like a flex fuel sensor, you want that to shut off when the key is off. But if you use something that there's always power, when you shut the key off, your flex fuel sensor is going to be running all the time, or maybe if you're trying to power a light or something. So I would use that fuse right there to power up, an accessory. And I like to use these adapters right here. So this adapter would go in, you would take the fuse out, you would put the fuse in the lower one because that'll protect the circuit, and you put the whatever you're powering, that would be the fuse for the upper one, and that'll protect whatever you're powering. And then you would put this in the same place the fuse was in, and this would take the spot of the fuse, but it would basically protect both circuits at that point. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that adapter that I was showing you, and I'm gonna pull the fuse for the ECM, and I'm gonna drop this in its place real quick. I just have to get a pair of pliers. Luckily in my shop, you're never too far away from tools. So this 25 amp is for the ECM, and what we wanna do, the bottom fuse is gonna be the one that protects whatever circuit you're tapping into. So the top fuse protects whatever you're powering, and the bottom fuse protects the circuit you're tapping into. So I'm just gonna plop this right into here, and now we have an add-on for whatever circuit you're trying to power. And you can see right here now that it took place of the fuse, but both circuits are now being powered and protected. Really quick, I'll just show you a test light, how it should work. But you would basically take the ground of your test light and go to a ground stud, and you would put this on the power side. And it's pretty simple. It's a simple, you have voltage or you don't have voltage. So if you were to probe a fuse, and you were to probe each side of those pins, it would just show voltage or no voltage. It won't tell you how much. It won't tell you ground either. But this is a good way to at least check if you have something there. So you don't necessarily need a meter. You could always use a test light as well.